And let's take Muhammad, who is in the Middle East, is where he says. Muhammad, you're live with Eric and Matt. How's it going? Muhammad.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, people.
Hello. What did you want to talk about today?
I want to speak. I just want to take off because there was a great misunderstanding in my last call when I spoke to Matt. I just want to make sure my points are clearly understood. I'll try my best to clarify what I meant.
Okay.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
That was on the Atheist Experience show, I believe. I said that I believe that God is an eternal, self-sufficient being above his creation, and that.
Did you say why you believed that?
I want to explain why I believe he is eternal and why I believe he is eternal and why is he self-sufficient and why he has to be one.
I'm just curious if this is like you defining God, or if it's you concluding that a God with these particular characteristics is real. It's like saying, like, if I asked you, if you called in to say, I'm calling in to explain to you all about Yeti, and you were to start by saying Yeti are large, mammalian, furry, ape-like, human-like, bear-like creatures that live in the snow. That's kind of a definition of what a Yeti is. It doesn't really tell me how you concluded that that is in fact what a Yeti is. So are we starting with that as a definition and then seeking to confirm it?
No, I'm speaking about the definition. We don't need definitions actually, but the problem is that I see that many people, they don't know who God is in the first place. Like I speak to
I'm not convinced
people,
anybody knows.
They think,
Yeah, you have to show us that. You have to show us that God is in the first place.
You say many people don't know what God is. I'm not convinced anybody knows. It's like saying, I mean, you could say people know what unicorns are, even though unicorns aren't real. And that's because we have this consensus. Is that kind of what you're doing? Is that we have a consensus definition of God and so on?
God, what I'm trying to say is that God, I'm trying to explain to you why I believe God, the God of Abraham exists.
Okay.
Who is a perfect being, a being above the heavens, who created us in his image. That is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So what's your proof? What's your evidence?
What is my proof? Okay, I want to speak about this. I want to explain why there must be an eternal being who is self-sufficient, above the world, and that...
Like physically above the world?
Yes, I want to explain many things about these topics.
Okay, because to the best of my ability, ISS hasn't hit heaven. So the International Space Station, right? We don't have airplanes running into angels.
I don't think he means like floating above the earth. I think he means above in a metaphoric sense.
Well, then we're going to have to explain that too.
No.
Go on.
I believe in the God of Abraham, who is a being above the world.
Okay, then we're going to have Eric needs going to answer to his question, which is, what does above the world mean?
Above, like something ascends, and an angel ascends to the heavens.
Okay, is the moon above the world?
The moon is above the earth. The sun is above the earth.
Sure.
Okay.
But please, I will go into all of these, but just one by one, please.
Sure. So let's start there.
Just pick one thing and start there. And
eternal. Why God must be eternal?
No.
Why there is an eternal being who brought to the.
Okay. What's the argument for why there must be an eternal being who brought forth the universe?
Yes.
Go.
The argument is. The evidence is what we see around us. Those are trees, animals, human beings, plants.
Does this look at the trees?
And we look at these things and we realize that there is someone who is bringing them into existence.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm gonna interrupt you, Muhammad. And this is despite maintaining a really good Zen heartbeat. This is absolute garbage, Because if you want to make an argument that there must be an eternal being outside of this, you don't start by saying we look around at the trees in the world and we reach the conclusion that this being must exist. Because I look around the world and I don't reach that conclusion. As a matter of fact, I think anybody who looks around the world and reaches that conclusion for that reason is a seriously flawed thinker who doesn't understand how we reach a conclusion.
It's also a post hoc rationalization. You're looking back at something that you already believe, and you're going, this matches the worldview that I already believe. No?
So start again.
Yes, I will explain to you exactly what I mean. Creatures exist. This is...
I agree, creatures exist.
Creatures exist.
Yes.
Okay, so when I look at the tree, when I look at the human being, I accept that he began to exist, that the tree began to exist.
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. We have to take a look at what you mean by begin to exist, because the evidence points to matter changing form and changing pattern and rearranging. And what we mean by please stop. What we mean when we say Matt began to exist is at some point this particular pattern of matter got labeled and called Matt. And so that is when we identified this. And that is sort of a way for us to more easily keep track of the universe. But if you're arguing for something beginning to exist in the sense that 1 second, at 1 time 0, there isn't this thing, and at time 1, there is this thing, that's not quite what we mean.
Is that the definition you're putting on things, Muhammad?
I take the position, Matt, I take the second position you brought forth. Namely that there was a time where I was non-existent, where I did not exist. I was non-existent, totally non-existent, and then I began to exist. And I take this position because the position that matter only rearranges, I believe it's not a good position.
It is the only position that is supported by reason and evidence.
No, I don't believe this. Why do I not believe this?
Okay,
well, then let's see his reason and evidence.
Then we have a fundamental disagreement. And how are you going to demonstrate that I should accept yours?
Yes, I understand this 100. I want to tell you why.
I really wish, Muhammad, that you would stop saying. I really fucking wish that you would stop saying, I understand and I want to tell you, and just start by telling us what you want to tell us.
I'm trying to tell you, really, Matt.
Literally, you just did the thing I cautioned against.
Okay, so we disagree with you on the beginning to exist, unless you want to offer up a definition that we would agree with.
Yes, the argument that actually it is supposed to be an observation, but the argument that rearrangement is not the correct position is that everything around us is which is composite has fundamental components.
Okay.
It has a finite number of fundamental components.
Did those fundamental components exist prior to what you're calling the instantiation of that thing?
No.
So the fundamental components, hang on, I'm asking a question. So you are saying that the atoms that made me didn't exist before me?
You have to draw the line somewhere. It might be the atoms, it might be the molecules, it might be the fundamental components.
Fundamental components. All right, I'm drawing a line here. I'm no longer interested.
That's fine.
So you take this.
No worries. All right, so are you talking about consciousness? Are you talking about what makes you separate from the atomic makeup of you? Like if you cut your hair or clip your fingernails, are those still you or do those stop existing? I mean, let's break away from the trees for a second and talk about you.
Yes. I believe that I got created, and personally I believe that I got created out of the fluid, out of semen.
Oh, yeah? Well, I hope so.
Is that people don't accept this because they claim that there is only rearrangement to this. They claim that chemical changes.
Everybody on the planet accepts that you were born in part because of semen. That's the point I was making when I asked if the constituent parts that made you existed before you existed, and you tried to argue that they didn't. And now you're saying that you were formed from semen, and I presume an egg, unless you've got some other non-standard excuse.
If you what I'm trying to say, Matt, I'm trying to say that things do rearrange, but they're not limited to that rearrangement. If you go to the fundamental components,
how does that matter?
Those fundamental components do not.
Why are you arguing against something that nobody has? Did I ever say that after things rearrange, they are limited by that rearrangement? Did I ever say anything remotely like that?
No.
Then why would you bring it up? Why would you bring it up as if it were some sort of rebuttal?
Because we have to observe that things begin to exist out of other things. They literally begin to exist. If we don't accept this, then we'll be looking in the wrong places.
Okay. So
it is very clear to me that things begin to exist out of other things. Rearrangement, if you take rearrangement...
This is a semantic disagreement. I already agree with you that a sperm and an egg come together. And at that point, something changes, and we begin to label from that point forward, we label that a new entity with a name or an identity. That does not mean that the thing came into existence. That's just the point at which we said, here is a demarcation where we are going to insert a label to divide what things were before from what they are now. It is a matter of convenience. It is a matter of us labeling things so that we can more clearly understand them, describe them, and evaluate them. That is independent from the fact that everything that, when the sperm and egg got together, the sperm existed, the egg existed. They got together and they changed. There's nothing new that was created. It's just at that point there's a rearrangement and change, and we pick that point to label. You could also pick not just the moment of conception. You could pick the moment of implantation. You could pick the moment of heartbeat. You could pick the moment of brain activity. You could pick the moment of birth, and as the ancient Hebrews did, you could pick the first breath as the moment that becomes a thing. And for example, when the ancient Israelites did a census, you did not include any children that were under 1 month old, because the infant mortality rate was so high that what we're going to count as people in our society are things that are likely to survive. So there's another area of demarcation, even if they had named it. All I was saying is that there is a difference in context when you talk about something coming into being, between something coming into being from nothing or something coming into being from constituent components in the past that changed form. That's it. That's all I was saying. And you...
okay, I understand this point. But I take neither position. I do not limit this change to rearrangement. For example, when I take...
Where do you diverge here? What's different from what Matt described? How's that different from your viewpoint?
I want to explain this. Long ago, people used to look at, for example, when you cut down a tree and you make a chair, they understood that you're not creating a chair in the sense that you're making components begin to exist.
Okay.
Yes, but they understood before that when they understood that the wood itself, the wood was created out of the earth, meaning that it began to exist out of the earth.
They're wrong.
Yeah. Do you think that Earth, Earth out of Earth comes wood, or do you think that there's a process that trees grow?
There is a process to everything.
Okay, so let's break it back away from trees and back to people.
Stop. The thing that you're describing is the difference between an artificially manufactured object out of constituent components and a naturally occurring object that arrives through natural processes. When a tree grows, it doesn't create wood out of nothing. It starts as a seed, and the wood is part of it, and the wood expands, and there's more because it's gathering nutrients and it's gathering other things. It is turning constantly other things into more wood. This is a natural process, and you are trying to draw a line, and a good line, between, hey, when the tree keeps growing, the wood increases, but it doesn't increase in some sort of, hey, here's new wood from nothing. It's new wood from stuff. And in much the same way that when I get fatter, it's because I ate food. Okay, I'm creating, and by the way, I'm not creating new. I'm not. By the way, I'm not. By the way, I'm not creating new fat cells. I'm expanding fat cells that already exist by eating. But there's a difference between me naturally growing from a fertilized egg and someone creating a robot me out of other parts. There's an undeniable difference between those two things, and neither of them demonstrates something coming into being from nothing. Neither of them demonstrate that there must be some sort of eternal creator.
So let's bring that back, Muhammad. Muhammad, with that explanation, are you still putting forward that things come from nothing, or that anything can come from nothing?
I don't believe it was correctly. I don't claim that anything we see around us is created out of nothing. Like it begins with this out of nothing.
I agree with you. See, we're coming to agree.
However, Eric. I don't believe that things only rearrange.
Okay, then you're going. Give me an example of something.
Other things.
Please, that is okay. Please give an example of something that is not the result of rearrangement.
يعني you can see the fundamental parts where they look. Any fundamental component which is not composed of anything smaller, an indivisible component.
I asked for an example. I asked for an example of something that arrived. Holy crap. Holy crap. Holy crap. I'm just going to keep saying holy crap until you stop talking. I asked for an example. You're claiming that there is something that arrives through some process other than the rearrangement of matter. And I asked for an example of that. I asked for an example of that, and what you started with, holy shit. Holy shit, can I finish my sentence? What you started with is fundamental things. That I want an example that proves your point that there are things that change that aren't as a result of a new rearrangement pattern of matter, because your argument hinges on the demonstration that that the notion of matter changing form is insufficient to explain the bulk of what we see. So I want an example, and saying fundamental something or others is not an example.
Well, especially because at the atomic level, Muhammad, you have to realize that when you're dealing with atomic matter interacting, that those things can change. That a molecule from one
I just want an example.
thing can move to another thing, and it can become different. Right, larger atoms can break down into smaller ones.
This is really easy. We don't need a physics lesson. We need an We need an example. Give me an example of what you're saying, or I'm done.
Yes, the subatomic particles. I think nobody disagrees about this. That they are indivisible.
Okay,
so the basic components are indivisible.
I would like an example.
Yes, you can't see annihilation and creation of.
I would like a fucking example.
Yes.
Well, I think examples of fucking might not be helpful.
In the annihilation and creation of matter, the proton and the electron and the electron.
I am beyond completely done. I want an example that demonstrates your claim that there is something that arises through some process other than the rearrangement of matter into new patterns. And now you're going off, and now you are rambling about subatomic particles. Give me an example, or I will hang up on your ass.
I told you the subatomic particles, they are created.
Bye. Oh. I keep my fucking promises. And if you ask me for an example of something that is the foundation of what my position is, I'm either going to be able to give you an example, or I'm going to acknowledge that there's a flaw in my position. If I hold forth that, hey, this is the thing that happens a lot in the discussions about evolution. Mm-hmm. And the theistic view is that the natural laws of the universe are insufficient to explain the vast diversity of life, and therefore they must inject some sort of theistic or guiding thing. And yet they cannot ever demonstrate that, in fact, the natural laws are insufficient. They can't even give examples of something that's like, at best, they can get to something that we don't fully understand. But if you're going to claim, if my position is that everything is matter changing patterns and being modified through purely natural chemical processes. I get fatter, I get skinnier, the trees grow, everything else. That those sorts of things don't require anything more than the natural law. And your claim is that, no, that's not sufficient to explain X. And I want an example. And all I get is subatomic particles, and I want to tell you. I don't think you want to tell me.